Coming in. Everybody's coming in. Well, we got a bunch of realtors on early this time for the Realtor Mastermind. There must be something going on in real estate that people might want a little bit of information on. I can't put my finger on what it might be, but maybe there's something that's been happening that's maybe got you a little nervous, got you a little scared, got you a little angry maybe. Well, we're going to be talking here today, and we're going to let everybody get a chance to get in here as it's coming in. But I wanted to welcome everybody. Great job jumping on the call today. You can always tell who the leaders are because they're the people who are plugged in. And today we're going to have a great call for you, a great Zoom, if you will call. See how old I am? I'm saying a great call, a great Zoom for you today. And we are recording this. So if somebody's talking too fast or you can't keep up, you'll be able to go back and see the recording on our YouTube channel to watch and listen again. You're going to get some great scripts and dialogues and solutions to what we have going on today. And this is what we're going to be doing today. The first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting your mindset right. Everything in your life rises and falls on mindset, having yourself set, ready to go, right? The noggin, you got to have that clear first. So the second thing we're going to do, we're going to have an amazing expert who's been in the real estate industry since the 1900s, started her business back then, and she's got some slides put together. You're going to be great. It's going to be an awesome explanation so you can understand what's happening. There's been a ton of fear mongering and headline reading that's going on. Of course, the fake news is blasting things. It's the end of realtors as we know it, right? And if you're just reading those, you could probably be terrified right now. And we're going to set it straight for you so you know what's going on. And we're going to have your mindset right. And then after that, we're going to bring in some superstars that are going to show you some techniques, some scripts, some dialogues that you can use, things that you can internalize that are going to make you ultimately a better real estate agent. That's going to be the best part about this whole thing is you're going to come out on the other side of this thing and you're going to be hardened and you're going to be strong and you'll be ready for the next time there's a change in it. So let's get going. It's 12:01. My name is Jim Lambright. It's my wife, Stacy. She started our real estate business in 1997 in the 1900s, and I joined her in the year 2000. We've been selling real estate a long time. And here's what I want you to know. I want you to know this. It's going to be okay. You're gonna be okay. Look, this is not the first time that there has been, let's just call it the rug pulled out from under the feet of people in the real estate industry. Here's what I want you to know. Every single industry out there, every single one of them is undergoing unprecedented change in the way they do business, unprecedented change in their fee structures, unprecedented ways in they market. Change always happens. And here's what I know. You hate change. You know how I know you hate it? Because I hate it too. Oh man, was I mad when I saw this Friday decision. I was like, how dare they? And I was angry and I was throwing things. And I even said probably a few bad words. Isn't that right, Stacy? I stomped a few times around the house and then I checked myself. I said, hang on here. You've been here before. You've been through this before. We've seen the sky is falling. Armageddon. It's the end of the real estate as we know it. Agents are going to get ran out of the business. We've seen this before lots and lots of times. And if you're a newer agent, or this is the first time you've had the proverbial rug pulled out from underneath your feet, or you've been punched in the face for the first time in this industry, congratulations. You're going to be a veteran now to this thing. And here's what I want you to know. This has happened before. I'll give you an example. Do you know that this is just to get your mindset right, so you know this is not unprecedented. Do you know that a long, long time ago, actually not that long ago, there was no such thing as buyer's agents? Do you know there was just people that listed homes? There was no buyer's agent represented at all. And do you know that listing agents threw a fit when buyer's agents were introduced? What do you mean I'm going to have to share half my commission with these agents representing the buyer? I'm the listing agent. And they were very short-sighted. Oh, they were angry. They were mad. This is going to kill everything. And here's what they found out. It was the best thing that ever happened to real estate, bringing on buyer's agents. Because you know why? You could be a list agent and you could split your commission and hire all these other agents to come in and do your work for you. They'd show all the houses and all you had to do was split the commission. And then if you were a really good listing agent and marketed properly, you could generate leads and you could hire buyer agents to work underneath you and you could get a piece of their commission. Now you scaled your business. So out of tragedy, I'm using air quotes, and Armageddon and the sky is falling and woe is me came one of the greatest things that ever happened to the real estate industry. Why am I telling you that? Because I don't want you to be a victim. Look, If your brain is in a place of victimhood, you cannot get better. You cannot improve yourself. You will see yourself as something happening to you versus something that you're going to take advantage of and move forward with. And I want you to know that. So, okay, that's great, Jim. I'm not a victim. How do I get out of feeling that way? It's this 3 words: I am responsible. I am responsible. You have to say that to yourself. I am responsible for what's happening here. You're thinking, how can I be responsible? NAR did this to us. These stupid attorneys that did the class action lawsuit, right? And you can be all angry like I was until I checked myself. It's this. Maybe I need to be more involved. Maybe I should have volunteered for the local real estate communities and been involved in the legislation. Maybe I should have called my state senators and representatives and got involved in some politics by making a 60-second phone call and sending over an email saying, this is ridiculous. There is no collusion in real estate. Look at this. There's a $500 flat listing fee discount broker in my area listing houses right now for that. And look, here's the MLS. Here's all kinds of different buyer broker fees being offered, but none of us did it. And you know why I'm responsible for what happened? Because I didn't make a call. I didn't send a text. I didn't get a hold of my representatives, and because I didn't want to be involved in politics, right? Well, guess what? We have to learn how to speak up a little bit and represent our industry. And here's another thing. As angry as maybe some of you, I know I was, mad at NAR, we need this trade association. There's 1.5 million members in it. As much as I'm like, I'm going to revoke my fees, I want a class action sue them to get my money back from them, I was angry. We have to have a trade association. Every large group of small business entrepreneurs has a trade association to help protect them in legislation. And we may not always get the answer we want, but we need them. And we need to stick together in this thing. And all of you that are on here are leaders. Congratulations for being on here. It is your job and our job to calm the troops. Relax. This is going to be okay. And here's what I want you to think back on, and we're going to get into the explanation of this thing. I want you to think about this. Remember the first time you flew on a plane? Maybe you were just a little kid, or maybe you were a young adult. You got on a plane and you encountered a thing called turbulence. The first time, remember, the first time you ever felt turbulence, you thought you were going to die. You thought the plane was going to fall out of the sky. And what happened? A calm voice came over the loudspeaker and they said, here's what we're encountering. Here's what it is. We can't avoid it, but we're going to do some things to fix it and make it better. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to strap on your seatbelt. I need you to put away your things that are in your hand, your drinks and things like that, so they don't spill on you. And just hang on. It's going to get bumpy, but we'll be out of it in just a few minutes. Now, you didn't like it, but you felt better knowing that someone was in charge. And that's all of us on here today. We've got to help calm, especially the young people, the early agents, the newer agents. We got to help calm them and remind them that it's going to be okay. We've seen this before multiple times. There is a massive change and shift that happens in real estate every couple of years. And this is just another one of those. And guess what? There's another one coming in the future. Here's the great news for you. If this is your first time experiencing it, you're going to be a lot calmer for the next one and be there. But you got to be calm right now. And don't be one of those agents who's out there saying, well, I'm glad it's just going to flush out a bunch of agents and they're going to be out of the industry. That is a very ghoulish thing to say. For somebody, maybe there's an agent who only does a couple of deals a year. You don't know. Maybe it's a single mom. That's the only way she provides for her family, doing a couple of deals a year. We don't want anybody to get out of the business. That's the reason we're doing this call right here today. We want all of you to stick with it. This business has provided us the life of our dreams, and we want that for you too. And you're going to hear from some experts coming up here. And all of us are going to learn the techniques on how to tighten our seatbelt during this turbulence and to get ready for it. And the leadership is going to create a way to get out of this turbulence. And you guys are going to be, I'm telling you, I promise you, you're going to be fine, but you got to stick with it. You don't know what you don't know. And so with that, I want to introduce Stephanie Gillison. Now, Stephanie is an absolute champion. She started real estate when she was 5 years old. She's been doing it going on 30 years now. And she started, I believe, in 1997, I think, same thing. And she's an absolute champion. She has a massive team of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of agents all across the country. And she does a lot of coaching, but she has dug into this thing. And she's going to give you a layman's explanation so you can stop watching the headlines and really understand what's going on so you can convey a clear message to other agents to calm the troops and also to your clients so they don't misunderstand what's being said by the fake news. There, I said it. Sorry, Stephanie. I know you're going to talk about that. But with
No,
that,
I love
Stephanie
it.
Gilson, put your
Uh,
slides up, baby, and let's see, guys. Watch what's going on here.
Jim, I love it. And thank you for all of that because, this is what this is about. This is why we do this every single Monday, is to keep our community growing together in that upward. And so you got to keep your mindset and stop paying attention to, there's so many conversations, but like Jim said it, there is a ton of fake news out there. I don't know. I think every major news media source over the weekend published, printed, aired on television that the 6% commission on buying and selling a home is gone. That is fake news, everybody. Nowhere in this settlement does it say anything to the sorts. And so we're going to break down this settlement because I know many of you haven't read it precisely and what does it mean. But literally, when the DOJ opened up in 2019, some issue as it arose to, are we being fair to the consumer? Are we being fair to the public? They found that we were, and they closed it. It got reopened, and at that same time, we had this massive class action lawsuit that named the top brokerages in the industry and also the National Association of Realtor members. We all know that that verdict came down in January, and the jury found us to be liable, National Association of Realtors and those top companies to be liable. Some of them settled out of it, and that's what they've been doing since. And basically, that is what NAR did on Friday, was settle out of it. The reason why they settled is because one, they want to be released from all liability nationwide. That doesn't just mean the Steitzer lawsuit. That means all those copycat lawsuits on the seller side, where it's all about the seller suing for commission. They wanted that liability released. When NAR's liability is released, so is approximately 1 million real estate professionals that are members of NAR. All right. And so that was the huge thing. Also, to get a lot of our boards released from this and MLSs. Okay. There's a lot of private owned MLSs. They have an opportunity to opt in. But as it stands right now, our boards and MLSs that are owned by the Realtor Association or partly owned by the Realtor Association are included in this settlement. Okay. So we'll have time for questions at the end of this, but here's the way it changes the way we practice real estate, okay? They were able to retain the right of consumers to continue to have cooperating compensation as an option, so long as it is not on the MLS, okay? So what's going to happen in mid-July is compensation for buyer's agents will no longer be published in the MLS. That is what it says. NAR has agreed to put this in place. We can advertise compensation anywhere but the MLS. All right. And so what does that mean? We're going to dive into this a little bit deeper on this call, but this is going to, in the commercial real estate space, forever, if we wanted to know what cooperating compensation was, we had to reach out to the listing broker, ask if cooperating compensation was being offered, and then we would send them a commission agreement that that broker would in fact pay us at the closing table. All right. So maybe that's the practice that we all put into place coming soon. We'll get more into that, but that's all this means. No compensation went away, folks. It just can't be advertised on the multiple listing service as part of this settlement. Okay. All right. Let me move my Zoom thing because I'm in my way of my screen. There we go. All right. Implications for realtors. There will continue to be many ways in which buyers brokers can be compensated. All right. You all have been tuning into a buyer's compensation agreement. What does that mean? Getting your potential customer clients to sign a buyer compensation agreement with you prior to showing them any real estate. Start doing it. This, as part of this settlement, it states that that is exactly what we're going to be doing. Several states have already made this law. Indiana just came on last week as it is required that the real estate professionals get a buyer compensation agreement put into place. NAR is requiring it. So that is going to become part of your business. And what that means is you deciding and understanding how you're going to have value. Okay. And so Think about all the ways you can be compensated, all right? It's with the buyer. Okay, John, please mute whoever that is because I can't see. And okay. All right. So as we believe it, we're going to have ways of interest of the sellers, the buyers, and their brokers to make offers of compensation without using the MLS. So types of compensation available for buyers, brokers can be fixed fee commission paid directly by the consumer, concession from the seller, or seller paid buyer closing costs. There's nothing that says going forward that you can't ask for compensation from the seller. It can be put into the offer. We're going to give you all these ways in a little bit, but I want to get through these lawsuits, okay? Compensation will continue to be negotiable because it's always been negotiable. This settlement will preserve the choices consumers have regarding real estate services and compensation. After the new rule goes into effect, listing brokers and sellers could continue to offer compensations for buyer broker services, just not through the MLS. So can you offer cooperation through your own website? Can you offer it through social media? Can you offer it through other listing platforms? Absolutely. The answer is yes there, okay? You know, there's talks about putting it in Showing Time and other platforms. I'm sure all of these platforms are going to get around to it. As long as it's not the multiple listing service, it's going to be able to be done. Can we all have conversations with one another and make sure to tell everyone, hey, come show my property because this cooperating commission is being offered? Absolutely. Okay. So no money is going away. NAR has long encouraged its members to use written agreements about buyer agency. This settlement provides that MLS participants working with buyers must enter into written representation agreements with those buyers. Mid-July, it's going to be required. Go ahead and start working on it now. All of your states, your brokerages, are working on buyer broker agreements that are in the best interest of you. So one, look at what your state is putting together. Look at what your board of realtors is putting together. Look at what your brokerage is putting together. They're all working on this, and start putting it into use, even though it's not required until July. Here's my thought on that. If you wait until mid-July when it's required, and you've already started working with a buyer and they haven't found a house by mid-July, I don't want to see you with your pants down, right? So go ahead and start putting it into use. Implications for members and home buyers and seller. After the new rule goes into effect, MLS participants acting for buyers would be required to enter into the written agreement. We've heard that. They're saying to do this before touring a home. Don't do it when they've picked the house. Do it before you start showing them the homes, okay? These agreements are going to be put in place so that we, as a group, as an organization, can help consumers understand exactly what services and value will be provided and for how much. And only you can set your value. So nobody is telling you you can't charge a certain percentage, okay? That's why the fake news headlines are just what they are. They're fake news. Now, you've heard me say seller lawsuits, seller-driven lawsuits. This agreement will end litigation as to all defendants concerning the cooperation compensation. However, in Batten is a lawsuit that is buyer commission driven. It's a home buyer that has filed a class action lawsuit. That is not included in this settlement. So when Jim said this isn't the first time this industry has had massive change, and it's not going to be the last time, we're going to see it very soon again, because we've got a home buyer class action lawsuit that has yet to even come alive yet. So now they've told us what we have to do to protect the home buyers, right? Now we'll see what this case brings with a totally different judge, with a totally different part of the United States, with a totally different argument. Okay, we'll see how that all plays out. So that's why we want to say, keep tuning in to what's going on. Court still has to approve this settlement, so it's not locked in stone. They're pretty sure, there's strong grounds that the court is going to approve this settlement because it's supposedly in the best interests of all its parties and class members. but we can expect the process of court review to take several months or more. In large class action settlements like this one, objections and opt-outs are common, and the plaintiffs and NAR will handle them as they come. Now, does that mean the mid-July gets pushed out? No. Mid-July is going to stand because NAR is showing the consumers and the DOJ that we have evolved, okay? So don't think that time frame is going to get pushed out. But the final say of what happens in this settlement or even in this lawsuit could take many, many more months before we even know. So now, like Jim said early on, what are we going to do? What can we all do to best prepare ourselves to be agile, to come into this with the most positive mindset to where this doesn't affect your business whatsoever?
I love that explanation, Stephanie. Thank you so much. That was great. If you guys like that, put a quick thumbs up there in the chat box. Make sure you guys are all plugged in on this thing. Just so you know, if you like this, we are recording this and we're going to be putting it on our YouTube. We recommend that you follow our YouTube channel. There's another 57 videos like this of incredible high-level agents talking about their different expertise and things like that that's on there also to help you grow. We also have a Facebook page you can be a part of. All of this is free, and a website that we'll have somebody put in the chat box for you. I just saw somebody put the YouTube channel down there. Go ahead and sign up for all that stuff. It's all free. This is for all agents, all brokers. We believe this: a rising tide floats all boats, and we're here to help all agents from all walks of life, all brokers all across the country, bring in their expertise, and all of us get better as we go. I want to bring on a superstar right now to talk a little bit about what he and his team is planning on doing with this change that's coming on. And this is Alex Montagano. And Alex is out of the Indianapolis marketplace. He's a superstar, runs a big team. He's got a lot of buyers agents. I think he does 50, 60 million a year in production out of there. And Alex, go ahead and talk a little bit about what you guys are going to be doing as a team there in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I think Stephanie hit a lot of things on the head, but most importantly, it's the conversation and the education that you can shed light to the clients that you have. And just like a lot of us as realtors over the weekend, I got a lot of texts from other agents, clients, friends of mine asking, what does this mean for me? And, when you look at the idea of 6% realtor commissions or 5% or whatever you guys do with the brokerage that you work for, I think it's important to understand that our fiduciary duty on the listing side of selling real estate is creating maximum exposure to create the highest net value for the sale of the property for the seller that you're working for. And so we're fighting tooth and nail about a conversation over the last, call it, 96 hours of 3%. But if I were to take out that 3% and I would cut the exposure of a property by 30 or 40%, reducing the net value of the property by 5%, that is not in the best interest of anybody involved. And I think it's really important to sit down with your client and educate them on the fact is we're trying to create maximum exposure for the property. And so there are going to be buyers that run into issues of being able to pay the buyer agency fee out of pocket, or being able to roll it into a loan, or trying to increase the property value and then hitting appraisal snags. So when we can educate our sellers that it's in their best interest to offer this, it's our job to help them see that doing that ultimately nets them the highest value of the house. And if you've ever prospected expired listings, for sale by owners, or anything like that, they've always been allowed to go out and pay no buyer agency fee, or pay 1% or a flat rate deal or anything like that. That option's been out there forever, but it's always been in the best interest to hire me or Stephanie or Rob or you on the other end, who's the full-blown expert to maximize the exposure of the property. So that's what we're going to be talking about on the listing side with our clients. With the buy side, getting the buyer agency agreements. Look, we're just going to tell our clients straightforward what it is. This is a document that's required by state law. This is something that you guys need to do. This is what my fee is, and this is what my fee and my value proposition is. Look, if you don't know what you're worth or why you're worth 3%, 4%, whatever it is, I mean, guys, Stephanie's worth 10% after that presentation, and that's why she gets to dictate what she charges. But you get to tell your client, this is the value prop that you get when you work with me. It's not just opening a door and pulling a sign off the MLS and saying, let's go buy this property. It's the education, it's the information, it's the off-market opportunity, it's the negotiation of winning the multiple offer situation, and the Rolodex that you have, and so many other things. But what we're going to try to do in representing you as a buyer is we're going to try to get the seller to pay the 3% for you. But in the instance that you can't, I have to get paid because this is what I do for a living. And if you can't afford that, then we can avoid looking at those properties, or I can provide you somebody else to represent you, but I will not be the one doing that. And we have to get really comfortable in approaching our clients that way and having the conversation head on with our clients. And look, there's going to be some people that are unwilling or don't want to, and there's going to be the one-off seller that says, I'm not going to do that. And that's okay. It's been like that forever. There's been plenty of sellers that you've sat down with that don't want to pay you 3%, and so many buyers that don't want to negotiate an inspection or purchase agreement, how you educate them to do it. But it's your job as a professional to protect your values and respect yourself to determine how you're going to run your business. So that's how we're going to look at things on the short. Jim, I think one of the things you nailed on the head, I think there's going to be a ton of conversation over the next 6-12 months throughout the rest of this year. There's going to be a ton of turbulence behind that, but I think it's the steady hand that can provide the education to your clients and to your peers to say, look, this is why it's more than just a conversation about 3%. And it's all the other valuable things that you provide for people along the way. So I'll turn it over to somebody else.
Yeah, great explanation, Alex. I love on that. And that's why you're a great leader there of your team, and you're a great asset to our group here. So we appreciate that on there. Next, I want to introduce a gentleman who owned multiple RE/MAX offices. He was the #1 RE/MAX broker in the world, I think, for like 7 years. He and his wife, I'm sorry, don't let me exclude Mrs. Campbell, but Mr. Rob Campbell and Kim Campbell. Rob coaches currently, just so you know, over 1,000 real estate agents, he and his wife, as far as getting them to where they want to go to a higher level. So he's got his finger on the pulse of this thing, and he's going to be speaking to you right now, talking about what are going to be tactics, techniques, and solutions to this, I guess, Armageddon that we're seeing. Rob, take it away.
So I can remember when I first got in the real estate industry back in the 90s, and there was a new type of real estate model that was coming out back then. And it was called flat fee and fee for services and 100% brokerages. And they were just starting to come out, and everybody was going, oh my gosh, this is going to change the industry. They're going to take commissions away. No one's going to pay money. And they said it was going to ruin the industry. Well, that was 30 years ago that happened. Well, it didn't ruin the industry. And there are flat fee models out there. There are pay for services out there. They're in the mix, but it's not the majority of what's happening, and it's not what's moving real estate. So agents move real estate. So back years ago, we were encouraging our agents to, and I was in, fast forward a few years, I was in the brokerage management side. We were starting to encourage our buyers agents to get buyer brokerage agreements. And they pushed back, and I don't want to do that. Oh, it's uncomfortable. I'll get it signed after I get the deal signed, right? So they were didn't want to do the buyer brokerages. And then throughout the years, some states required it, some brokerages required it. So now we're in the position where we're forced to do it because NAR is requiring it because of this settlement. I think it's a good thing. We should have been doing it all along in the first place. But now it's forcing agents to learn how to sell themselves, how to sell their value. And if you can learn the scripts to sell your value, in a minute, I'm going to have Stephanie do her script on, she said it earlier today and it was brilliant. So in a minute, she's going to talk about what she says to build value in talking about a buyer agency agreement. But this buyer agency agreement, here's the way I see this working out. Now we're forced to get buyer agency agreement. We're going to have to sell ourselves. We're going to sell our value on why they need to be using us and why they should contract with us to pay the fee. But moreover, one of the things that you can work into your conversation is, hey, this buyer agency agreement now makes us partners in this deal. It allows me the ability to negotiate on your behalf with the seller to get this fee paid so you don't have to. Because that's exactly what it does. You're now, because the buyer's given you the power to say, hey, look, I don't want to pay it, but if you'll negotiate with the seller, go ahead. So now the agent, with the seller's backing, when they put offers in, they put in the offer, this is the commission to the buyer's agent. Or maybe they put seller to pay seller concessions of X amount of dollars to include all the other stuff plus buyer brokerage commissions. So there's a lot of different tweaks that we can do, but it's going to be more towards negotiating with the seller and the seller's agent to make sure that you're covered. But if you've got your buyer agency agreement done and you've got them partnering with you on the negotiating, then they're not going to have to pay it. It can be negotiated in the deal. Now, if you do get that seller that refuses to pay anything, the buyer has a choice. Now let's move on to another property, or they can pay it themselves. So there's going to be a little tweak, but I don't think the sky is falling on this at all. We're just going to leverage the power we already had with buyer brokerages. We're now going to be in the negotiating side of the business. So Stephanie, could you go through that building value to a buyer with the buyer agency on why they should to sign that agreement?
You know, and there's a lot of ways to approach this, but this is my way to approach it. And I've approached it this way for years, you guys. This isn't new because of what happened on Friday. This is something that I have implemented into my business for the longest time, right? And so, you know, look, the one thing I've never been able to figure out is how to get time back into a day, okay? And so there's only so much that you can do in a day. And so I learned a long time ago that I've got to protect my time. And the only way I can protect my time is if a buyer, if you're asking me to invest my time in finding you that perfect property or that perfect business or that perfect house, this is what I cost. This is what it's going to cost you. Now, I'm going to take the risk and do the work until we get that perfect property. But this is what it's going to cost you the day of closing. I'll do my best to negotiate and see if the seller will contribute. But if not, this is what it's going to cost you. You know, the thing that we're doing here is we have access to properties that they're not going to have access to. Not everything resides on Zillow, folks. There are so many exclusive property websites. And so imagine my brokerage happens to be 90,000 real estate professionals all over the place. I have access to so many different off-market properties that could be that perfect home or that perfect property for them. And so if they want to have access to those things, that's why I'm worth those fees. And so think about where you're at, what you have access to. How can you bring even more value? Look, I've not put a person in my car and shown them anything. All right. That's not what I do. They meet me at the property. We take a look at it. We go to the next one separately. It's business for me. And so when you approach everything as business, guess what comes along? A fee, right? And so when you keep it business, it's a fee. But when you start treating your clients like they're your best friends and you want to get all personal with them, they don't like paying their friends. They like taking advantage of their friends. Okay. And so there's a lot of ways that we can earn our value. But for me, I said it right up front. This is what I cost. And this is what I'm going to do. So think about what are those things you're going to do? Because if they're not willing to pay you, why would you invest any time at all? Because guess what? Move on. The next person is absolutely going to pay that service. When I need an attorney to take a deal through planning and zoning or whatever the case might be, I know I got to pay him a big, huge retainer up front and an hourly rate. You know, there's a lot of that talk of people saying, well, maybe I should charge an hourly rate. That's up to you guys. I give people that I don't do that option, you all, just so you know. I do give people that option. I said, look, if you feel more comfortable about paying me hourly, here's my hourly rate. And guys, that's $435 an hour. Why? Because I'm worth it. Because that's how much money I make. I've done my calculations. I've divided by the time. I know what my hourly rate is. And so pick or choose. But if they're willing, if they want you to invest your time to work for them to find what it is they're seeking, they should have no problem paying you at the end of that pot of gold. And that's at the closing table, however they figure it out.
One thing I'd shed some light on, look, I would look at it this way. If you're a realtor, if somebody came up to you tomorrow and said, "Hey, I want to hire you to help me represent $1 million purchase, but why should I pay you?" If you don't know that, you should grab a colleague in the industry and
Mhm.
work together to have your own elevator pitch to be able to sell yourself like that. And I've known Stephanie for a long time, and that conversation with her about what her worth is has been the exact same since the second I met her, all the way through the conversation of today. And that's because she knows what her value is and she knows what she's worth. So if you're an agent right now who has angst over this or who is nervous about this, you should be role playing with the coach, with the mentor, with the colleague to make sure you understand when somebody comes to you in an open house or you call a for sale by owner or your friend says, "What am I why would I pay you? How does this work?" If you can't educate them as a professional, look, we're representing the biggest transaction these people will ever make in their life. And if you're nervous to tell them that you need to take a percentage of the commission to represent them to do all these things that you're going to do, look, this probably is no longer the industry for you. But like we said in the beginning, you need to seek help to be able to get those questions answered, to be able to sell your pitch of this is why I'm the badass that you need to work with. And then the conversations end. They sign the document and then you go on your merry way to do your job. But that's the difference. If you don't know, you should be working with somebody to learn as to why they should work with you. Otherwise, when they do ask you and you can't answer that question, they're going to go to the next in line and that person's going to pitch them and they're going to sign the document with them and you're out.
Love it,
Right.
Alex. Yeah, if you mumble, stumble, bumble through it, you're toast. And Rob, did you have anything to add? I want to bring on Stacy next, or were
Go
you
right
finished?
ahead. Go
So
ahead.
I want to introduce Stacy. She started our real estate business in 1997. I joined her in 2000 by begging her to marry me, and then when that happened, she allowed me into the family business when that happened. But she started exclusively with buyers, just so you know. So this is somebody you're going to want to hear from and listen to when she talks about how she's going to be handling and how maybe you can copy it. Go ahead.
So we've been talking about this a lot. This is, I think, our fourth Zoom in the last like 12 hours. But one thing I can tell you is that I have not had these conversations yet with a client, seller or buyer, nor am I going to. Because for me right now, my personal opinion is we have a 10,000-foot view of something that's probably going to change either on a state level, a board level. It could even change in a court level before it's actually in place in July. Do I know what I'm going to talk about if it comes up? Absolutely. One, my sellers, Alex, I agree 100%. A lot of the agents, especially the ones that focus more on buyers, are worried. So we have to do our part. I do more listings. It's up to us to educate the sellers that, for one, the numbers are probably going to remain the same or very close to it. They're just moving around a little bit. And if you are stubborn and don't want to pay it, then guess what? Your house isn't worth as much because the comps that were sold had those numbers figured in. So you can do that, but I'm telling you, your house just went down in value. So again, just moving numbers around. So that's my thought process when it comes to sellers. When it comes to buyers, I want to ease their minds. We do a lot of first time and second time home buyers, and we know a lot of people can afford houses but don't have a lot of cash. So my script's going to be very simple. Listen, we had some politicians, whoever you want to say, that meddled a little bit. So now we just have to reword things. You can pay my fee directly. Is that what I want you to do? No. So in our offers, we will write the concessions in, and it becomes a part of negotiation. My whole goal is to make sure that you get the best deal, the best offer in the most affordable way to you. So just put people's mind at ease. I think the biggest thing is, and I agree, you got to have scripts and dialogues, because if you fumble through that, know what you're going to say. I've got mine already scripted. Am I going to bring it up? No. If they ask me, that's what they're going to hear. And then I'm just going to move on. It's business as normal. So if you set the tone and the comfort level, just get out, keep, it's business as normal until we have to treat it differently come July.
And just so you know, here on Grow Global, we are going to have an entire session coming up here in the very near future where we're going to take the most common, maybe 8-10 common objections that you're going to hear. You're probably going to hear maybe 3 or 4, and we're going to role play those out. So they're recorded, and you can go and just listen to them again and again and again, and just take something from titans in the industry like your Stacy's, your Stephanie's, your Rob's, your Alex's, and just copy it and take it and make it your own. And be able to just spit it out in your sleep when somebody says, well, I'm not signing that thing, right? Or I'm not paying you any money to show me a house, or why should I pay you money? And we're going to have that coming up in the near future as this thing goes. Today's call was to calm you and relax you. Real estate's not ending. The sky is not falling. And what we want to do now is we want to take some questions. Unless, Kim, did you want to add something, or did you want to stick around to add? Okay, so we're going to take some questions. And I saw a bunch in the chat, so I'm going to scroll up through the chat as we're going. But the best way to do it with 160 people on is if you go down to the little bottom, there's a thing called reactions. If you raise your hand, because we want to keep this recording nice and clean, we'll call on you, and then you can unmute and ask your question, or you can put it in the chat box if you're somebody who's shy who doesn't want to speak out. But these calls are for you. We'd love to hear from you. Or look, I know we got some big players on here, like Tony's been doing this for 40 years, Tony Williams. If you guys want to speak up and talk about a little bit about what you're going to be doing, we'd love to hear from you too. Heck, we got Michael Higdon on here. So anybody who'd like to do that also, if you want to raise your hand on that, we'll call you. So we keep the recording nice and clean. And let's do that. Let's start to open it up here. And you wanted to add something. I saw you put your hand up.
Fast. One of the things that came out of this morning's Zoom is one of the changes that we know is coming no matter what, is that you're going to have those buyers exclusive signed. And a lot of people that work with internet leads are really having a fit over this because they haven't built that rapport yet. But the point that was made this morning, it does not have to be exclusive. So with that scenario in mind, my thought process is you get one for free where I meet you, and then I build that rapport and get you to sign it. Now I'm going to basically tell them, just so I can show you the house, I have to have you sign this. Does not mean you have to use me because it's not exclusive. And when we get together, we'll see if that's a partnership we can form and you do want to use me. So don't fret too much about that getting a buyer exclusive. It does not have to be, or a buyer's agreement does not have to be exclusive.
And the difference now is going to be everybody's going to have to get a buyer's agreement signed. So it's not like you're the only one who's asking for it. Everyone's going to ask for it. I want to bring on Tony Williams. Now, Tony's been doing this a long time. He'll give you his age. I think he started when he was 2 years old when he started real estate. But I bet Tony was around when commissions were like even 7 and 8% back in the day, right, Tony?
Yeah, that's right. Honestly, there was a period of time there where we really promoted 8% because the more commission you could get to that buyer's agent, the more traffic you could get. And we pushed that real hard. And we made sure that our reputation in the community was solid in protecting the buyer's agent. Thanks, Joe Sellers, for the compliment in the chat. It's good to see you on here, buddy. Hey, the thing that I wanted to throw in here was make sure that you check your local market on whether or not your MLS system is run by realtors. If it's not owned by a realtor association, you may find that the buyer's agent commission is going to remain posted. At the same time, you may find that the buyer's commission are put in the private remarks of the listing. So it's not like we're going to be out there in the dark wondering whether or not we're going to get paid. You just got to make sure you know where to look for it and stay in real good relationship with other agents that you co-op with. You know, producers know producers. And don't be afraid on every listing that you're going to go show to call that listing agent, talk to them first. You know, our team, we make sure we call every listing agent on every property that we're going to show. We don't just go through showing time and line it up and, you know, punch it through. We call people and talk to them, build a relationship, and also get all the information we need. But just know what's going to happen with your local MLS system.
Great stuff, Tony. I love that. Spoken like the calm, cool, and collected captain that comes over the line during the turbulence when you're riding the plane, relaxing you. Everybody's going to be okay. I want to go to the next person with their hand up, and that is Daniel. Daniel, if you'd like to unmute, if you have a question or comment.
I got a question from some people in our office. Am I good now? All right, cool. Sorry, I was in there with somebody else with the chat up. Anyway, I was calling to see if anybody had any answers on first-time home buyers who might have to wrap a buyer's agent commission into their loan. Are we seeing anything like that yet?
Great question, Daniel. I saw that in the chat actually also. So who'd like to take that one?
I don't mind. So here, the answer is no. We haven't seen anything about that yet because this came out just Friday. But here's the deal, guys. Something's going to have to change with all of the FHA, the VA, the Fannie Mae, and the Freddie Mac. And the reason why is because those are all government ran, and they all had government rules in place to where, you know, the buyer or seller paid, you know, closing costs and whatever the case might be were limited. So they're going to have to change that so that those home buyers don't get left out in the dry, you know? But as of right now, no, nothing's been addressed with that because simply there hasn't been enough time. But like Jim mentioned early on in this call when he started, talk to your representative, call your senators, you need to have that voice because this is exactly what we need to be saying to them. Very few people, probably the judges, probably these consumers, probably these attorneys have no idea what they've just shut down for those buyers.
That's right.
Okay. And so we need to voice that to as many people. We're lucky that this is happening in an election year where everybody has attention, right? They will all give attention, but you have to speak up and say those things. I had multiple conversations over the weekend with those types of folks. I've given to all kinds of parties in the past, you know, now it's time for they listen. And these are the things that we're saying. And they're like, oh, really? Oh, really? They haven't thought about it, right? It's back to us having to have that voice, which is another important reason why we just can't all disband and get rid of NAR, because that is the voice in Washington, D.C. for us.
Great explanation, Stephanie. Thank you for that question, Daniel, because I know it was on the tips of everybody's lips. And if you have a question, go ahead and go down to the reactions and raise the little hand down there, and we'll give you a chance to ask the question. We're going to go to the next one here. And while I get ready to call on Madeline, I want to mention this. Everyone, if 1.5 million realtors across the country had taken 60 seconds to reach out to their state senators and to their representative, this wouldn't have happened because it was already squashed back in 2019. So as we always say, we're not victims. We're all taking responsibility. And what are we going to do in the future? We're going to take action when we hear legislation or court cases coming across that are going to affect our profession. We're not going to stick our heads in the sand and wait for everybody else to handle it. We are the leaders we've been waiting for, and we're going to take action from here on out and take responsibility. So let's go to Madeline. Madeline Galdames. Did I say it right? Or Galdames? How do I say that, Madeline? You got a cool name.
You followed the accent very well. Accent over
I saw the little thing
Ah!
across the top. I figured Galdames. That's how you say it. Beautiful. Or Galdames. Go ahead.
Damas, thank you. Hi, thank you. I probably answered my own question. I'm in Chicago downtown market, and I work with a lot of high-end properties that are not on the MLS. I'm thinking they could do whatever they want because they don't work with the MLS anyway. They pay very well. I'll rent an $8,000 a month and get $8,000 commission. That's their co-op, 1 month's rent. I'm thinking they could still, with this going on, they could say, well, we're not going to pay anybody now. I don't know. I think I just answered my own question by saying they could do whatever they want.
Yeah, it's a great point. And here's what I want everybody to know that's on here. And Stephanie knows this already, and people who have done commercial deals know it's great. That's a great viewpoint, Madeline. I want people to understand this, is that this model that we're being moved towards in the residential has been being done in commercial for the longest time. There was no automatic clear cooperation buyer compensation listed on commercial deals. You get the buyer, you secure them, and then you had to take a compensation agreement and send it over to the listing broker and negotiate out your compensation before you took your buyer to go see the property. This has been going on forever, as long as commercial's been going on. And also, just so you know, Rob mentioned this, it's worth repeating, there are some markets that have been running this already. Just so you know, North Carolina, I don't know if there's any North Carolina agents that are on here, but North Carolina has been running this buyer's broker agreement now for, I believe, going on 2 years. It was required in their state. And San Francisco has been running for the last 6 months the fact that they weren't listing buyer's broker or buyer compensation on the MLS, and they've been running it successfully. So the sky is not falling. It's not the end of real estate. We're going to be fine. Maybe there'll be an extra step in here, but here's some great news. How many of you have ever taken somebody out 6 weekends in a row and shown them a house, and then they ghost you and you find out they bought a FSBO? How much money did you make when that happened? None. Or they walked into a new builder and walked right in and said, oh, the new build rep says, oh, you don't need a realtor here. I'll help you get set up right here. And you don't get paid. Those days are done. You're not going to work for free anymore. Those days are run because you're going to sign it up front. You're going to negotiate it up front, And if somebody doesn't see the value in you, you're going to move on and find another one that does. But I don't know too many real estate agents that work for free out there. They're going to pay somebody if they want a realtor, and it might as well be you. You're just going to have to get really good at expressing your value. Here's a great piece that I was told the other day, and I thought it was awesome. And that's this: stop basing your worth based on the amount of time you put in. Buyers and sellers are not paying you for your time. They are paying you for your experience, backed by the experience of all your mentors and all your brokers that you have backing you up. Decades and decades and decades of experience backing you. That's what they're paying you for. Because the reality is this: here's the fact: stories sell, facts tell, right? Here's the story you tell them. When you break your arm and you go to the doctor to get it, you're going to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get your bone set. How long did the doctor spend with you? 45 minutes, an hour max? Are you paying him for his time or her time? No, you're paying the doctor for their experience to get it right, because it's something that's very important to you. Now, could you go and watch a YouTube video and set your arm yourself and make a plaster cast yourself? Absolutely. You could make that in your kitchen and do it, and you could set it yourself. You could do it. But what's the chance you could get it wrong? You'd save yourself a hell of a lot of money. But would you do that? And the answer is no. This is the biggest financial transaction you're ever going to make in your life. And Stacy has a great one. She uses the transmission. Tell them the transmission story.
Well, I was just talking and I said, my brother is the type that he can get on YouTube and do anything with a car. I can get on YouTube and try to do anything with a car, and I'm going to screw it up. So, people, yes, can they still maybe fumble through buying or selling a house, but they're probably going to cost themselves money in the long run. So that's just another scenario we were talking about. And then Mike Monday had a good question in the comments. Mike, that's where I kind of think we're still looking at like a 10,000 overview, because I think that those agreements.
Go ahead and read the question too for people on YouTube.
Are the buyer exclusive agreements going to have real teeth, though? I've been told that they won't hold up in court. I think that's all what's going to change on either a state level, national level, board level. I see all that stuff tightening up. And my answer would be yes. I think if this does go through the courts and stuff, those are going to become way more, have more teeth. They're going to be rewritten.
Yeah. And the reason in the past I think they didn't have teeth is because brokerages gave up on it very easily, because not everybody required it. Now that it's going to be a requirement, everybody has one, everybody is going to honor them, and they're going to stick people to them.
You're going to see it change. That's why I'm not really getting into the depths of this yet until we see all of this shake out with some finality.
Rob Dietrich said,
well, that's going to also come down to brokers, because your broker is technically the one that owns that brokerage agreement and that listing agreement. So if the broker is willing to back you up, but the broker is willing to go to bat with you and take it to court, that's going to be an important aspect as well. So who you align yourself with as a broker makes a difference.
That's a great point on that. You had something, Alex, you wanted to add?
Yeah, somebody put in a question about the nightmare of navigating. I think it comes to navigating. This is more of a concern. Mine would be contacting listing agents in hopes they call back. I'm a listing agent as well and can't imagine the calls text. What I would tell you is, look, I think we all understand how important communication is on our side of things in the business right now, right? People, if you're representing a buyer, you should be contacting the listing agent regardless to understand the offer situation, the deadlines, the timelines, things like that. But at some point, let's say you run into instances where you can't get that communication, you should have your buyer agency agreement signed and you should write the contract. And sometimes if that's all you can do, that's what you need to do. And that's what the timing requires you to do. So as an agent, do all your due diligence, but if you can't get the response that you need to, put the offer in anyway and let the seller come back to you. If they need to counter it out or they need to take something away because of that, sometimes you just need to get the offer in front of them. And then look, this hasn't been talked about, and it's not, what I would tell you, if you were an agent right now, if you were within a couple years of the business and you're kind of looking around trying to figure out what does this mean for me and what should I do, you should go get as many freaking listings as possible. And you should get as many listings as you possibly can all the time, because the amount of listings that you have is the best way to guarantee what your income is going to be in this business. It takes all the guesswork out of the buyer side. It lets you delegate your buyer leads, and it lets you control more of the transaction and the conversations with the sellers.
I love that, Alex. That's great. And I think a great point to Alex's point on that there is everybody should start practicing right now. Look, you got to get out of jail free card right now until the middle of July, where if your client doesn't, you practice your script on them of trying to get them to sign these buyer exclusive agreements. And if for some reason they don't want to do it, that's okay. Just keep them for now and move on, because obviously your script isn't good enough. But start practicing now. Don't start doing it mid-July when all the money's on the table and they can walk away from it and you can lose them. You still have a get out of jail free card here for a couple of months.
So
What were you gonna
I'm
say?
gonna answer one of the questions I just saw. No, compensation cannot be.
Well, what's the question
And
first,
if you
everybody?
scroll up, it was just, can the compensation be in the agent to agent remarks? It cannot be in the MLS anywhere. It can't be in an attachment. It can't be in the agent to agent remarks, from our understanding right now.
Okay, so that answered that question there. Here's the thing. None of us want to try to circumnavigate any of the rules. We want to be on the white side of gray on everything that's out there, because that's the thing that's been going on. The C word they used about us. All of us know there was the C word wasn't going on. People could charge anything they wanted, and we know that, but somehow they painted the fact that realtors did do it. Maybe there was one or two bad apples who talked about it, like, I'm not going to sell the house if I don't get a certain number of apples, right? A certain percentage. But that's not the case. It's never been the case, but somehow they were able to win a court case over. So let's not circumnavigate anything. Let's stay on the white side of gray to avoid future lawsuits. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Hey, Jim. Yeah, we got a comment in the or question in the chat. What happens to listing agreements in mid-July? 0% to buyer agent? Look, you all, this is where we go back to what our worth and what our value is. I'm going to encourage, and already have started because the phone calls have come in with existing sellers. Oh, I don't have to pay buyer side commission now? Absolutely not. Do you want me promoting your listing, or do you want the other 5,000 realtors in our market promoting your listing? That's what cooperating commission is for, you all, right? And so this doesn't mean, everybody has their own business model. I'm not going to tell you how to do your business, but what I'm going to do is still encourage all of my sellers that it is very important that we offer cooperating compensation so that we get the most salespeople possible to be promoting their listing. And like Stacy said earlier, if they don't want to do it, if they're adamant after that, then they need to understand that their house isn't worth what the other one sold for that did offer that, because their value's coming down.
That's a great point. So if you're watching this, we're going to keep going with the Q&A, but I just want to say this again one more time. We're called Grow Global for a reason. This is a big tent open to all agents, all brokerages. We get together every Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time for masterminds like this. We have a specific topic. We bring in experts on that topic, and then you can ask questions. We always let you know ahead of time when it's going to be, so you can bring your questions. We have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube channel. Somebody's smarter than me is going to put them all in the chat for you, so you have them. We have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube channel, and we have a web page that tells you the things that were coming. The great part about the YouTube channel is it's got 50-some videos already we've been doing for the last year and a half of great topics, lead generation, tax strategies, all kinds of awesome stuff. And we're going to be talking about this more and more and more over the next 12 weeks. You're going to want to be here every Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time. With that, we're going to keep going with the questions.
Jim,
go ahead.
Jim, real quick, while you're on
Yes.
that, next week is Kelly and Keith Jackson talking about how to kickstart production in different markets. So that's our topic for next Monday.
Love it. And I see the tag down there. Somebody put the YouTube. That was Julie. Great. And if we can put the Facebook page and also the web page on there so people can get in there and sign up for that. So that's great. How to start business in multiple markets. I love it. That's next week. That'll be a great one for you to help expand, because we are growing globally.
Or people that transfer. Some people transfer out of one market into a new market. Hey, I've had a license for 10 years. I did great in my old market, but I don't know anybody where I'm moving.
I love it.
Kelly, that's what Kelly and Keith are. They are moving from one market to the other. And they do it at every market.
Thank you.
That's what it is. That's what they do. First at every market.
That'll be great. Awesome. I love it. I'm looking forward to that myself on there. So that's great. So we'll keep going. If you have a question, I see Thano, you've got your hand up. Go ahead and unmute and ask a question to the panelists.
Yeah, quick question. So previously it's come up in conversation. We can't talk about commission because of commission fixing, price fixing, all that. With this now change that we can't share it publicly in the MLS, and then we start talking about, okay, here's what the commission is. How does that play into previously talking about what our commission rates are going to be?
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Well, you've never been able to sit in a group and say we're all going to charge X. That's what you couldn't do. But when it comes to consumers and other agents with the commission that you are offering, you absolutely can share that information.
So if we're with a group of people, say we're having lunch and a group of people ask, well, hey, what do you charge for commission, or what with this NAR thing, how's that work? And we start talking about it. So in a group like that, no, but a one-on-one setting with a potential client, yes. How, if they're all asking that
So
question?
Thano, the big thing to keep in mind is you do not set that.
Yeah.
You can say what you charge. That's
Well,
the
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
But your seller is the one that is going to determine if they want to offer concessions to a buyer's agent, and if so, how much. Now you can educate them, like we've all been talking about, and give your opinion on what they should do, but they ultimately, that's why you can't have a general, you can't say, I'm going to charge 5 apples. I'm not using the commissions. And we're going to split that 2.5, because that's what doesn't exist.
I would drop the word commission, guys, out of your language. I would say fee or compensation, because commission gives a sleazy to me it does anyways. You're paying me a commission, it sounds like a car salesman or something like that. I would use compensation or fee instead of commission.
And this morning they actually used the wording concessions on one of the scripts, especially the buyer, because that's how it's going to be written as a concession. So remember I said basically things are just a little bit different. So now either you can pay my concessions directly, or we can add it into our offer, just like it's always been, and ask the seller to cover that for us.
It's a great point Stacy just had, just so you know. I would get in on every conversation, every Zoom you can log into, every type of, what were you on this morning? Clubhouse or something like that, learning from other agents locally, what they're going to be saying and what they're going to be using. And just so you know, if you're feeling uneasy and you're feeling scared, you're feeling nervous, right? Just so you know, everybody is rattled, okay? But we're going to be okay, and you're going to be okay. Stick with it. We need you. If you're a newer agent, look, let me give you a big virtual bear hug right now. You're going to be okay. Rub you on the head like a little Cub Scout. It's going to be all right. You're going to be okay. This isn't the first time real estate has seen something like this happen. It ain't going to be the last. There's more coming. Go ahead.
So, and I know Stephanie actually answered this in the comment, but I think it's worth going back to, because it is a little confusing, especially to our newer agents. He asked the question, so there still can be a compensation from the seller to the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
The answer to that is absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just going to be worded different. It's going to be found different. And what I'm taking from everybody getting together and talking is, it basically means you're going to pick up the phone. It's probably the reality is now, if you have 10 houses to show today, you have to make 10 calls to find out what the seller is offering, if anything. And if a buyer really likes one of those houses and they're not offering anything, that's another conversation that you've got to have at that point. So we're going to be doing a lot more work. It just is what it is.
And just so you know, it can be done, because back in the day, there was no showing service. There was no showing time. There was something like that. Guess what you had to do? You had to call every single broker to schedule your showings, and you had to have a live conversation with them. You had to talk to a person. So it can be done. And yes, is it better now? Go ahead, Stephanie. Did we lose you?
No. Rob's got his hand up.
Hey guys,
Okay.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Rob.
So let's say we had that conversation with a buyer and a seller, and they decide they don't want to pay buyer's agency. Let's just say, for example, how is us as listing agents going to, how much effort are we going to put into that listing? Are we still going to, give it our all, or what's your comments on that?
It's going to be a personal choice, Rob. Some agents are going to take it, some agents aren't. It's the same thing as limited services brokers, right? We've had a broker here in Columbus for years that'll $500 will put your house on the MLS. But they tell them up front, I ain't taking a phone call from you. I'm not coming to the closing. I'm not giving you any documents. And you're going to have to go get your own sign, basically. And so there's always been brokers like that. It's the Neiman Marcus, the Saks Fifth Avenue argument versus the clothes that you find in, what's the discount place that's got the clothes that people go to? Marshall's. It's the same exact clothing, right? The same stuff that's in Marshall's you can get at Saks, right? After the Saks has been done. But some people will not step foot into Marshall's. And some people will say, there's no way I'm paying Saks Fifth Avenue prices. So it's the exact same thing. There's going to be a customer for every fee structure and every type that's out there. That's my answer. Go ahead, Rob. I see you.
Right, yeah, I think the conversation with the sellers is going to have to be, hey, if you choose not to pay the buyer's agent, that's your prerogative. However, I need to make you aware, we're going to get a lot of offers where they're going to be asking for that in the offer. So just be prepared for that. So you're setting them up front that they're going to be asked to pay in the offers.
And two, I mean, make the point, no matter how it's structured, it comes down to the net offer. The buyer that's asking for that 2 apples, 3 apples might be the best net offer because of how they present their offer. It all comes down to the bottom line.
Yeah. And there's never been any collusion. There will not be any collusion, and there will be some that go 0, and that's fine. That's their choice. It's always been their choice to offer 0 compensation if they want. Keep that in mind. It's always been that way. This whole lawsuit thing was the fact that there was some collusion that we were keeping some certain percentage. It's absolutely not the case. And the same thing will go on from here. We're not going to collude. They will have the choice. The buyers will have a choice and the sellers will have a choice, just like they always have. Great questions.
Nate, I absolutely agree. Nate said that it comes down to setting expectations and having discussions. Once things are set in stone, it will be a part of every one of my buyer's appointments and my listing appointments, because that's right. Setting expectations up front makes the whole thing move smoother at the end.
In the future, we always keep these things to an hour, just so you know, so you guys can plan around it. But I feel like there might be some more questions. So some of us will stick around. Some of us have to jump off now, I know, because there's another one that some people are on at 1 o'clock Eastern that they had to jump on. But we'll keep this going until all your guys' questions are answered. I see Ray Woods, you have your hands up, but those of you who have to jump off, go right ahead. There will be a recording of it. You can go on YouTube to catch the rest. Ray, go ahead with your question, sir. You'll have to unmute, brother. We can't hear you. You got to hit the unmute. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Got you. Sorry about that. I'm driving. So, quick question for you. I'm not an investor, but we do. I'm an investor. I'm not an agent, but I do have agents on my team when we have homes that are renovated and have listed. So I guess, and you maybe already answered this, with AI and other technology that's actually helping push properties out to be sold that doesn't necessarily require an agent, I assume there are trainings and other systems out there to actually help combat that when it comes to agents going against AI, listing properties and getting it sold.
So Ray, there's a difference from getting a home in contract to get it to the closing table. Because I can tell you none of my deals are ever smooth, like as far as what comes up, appraisal gaps, but so I think it's easy to get a home in contract. The AI might be able to write a fluffy description, but our worth is from the contract to close. And AI can't step in and handle that fumbling and bumbling that has to happen to get everybody in line to the closing table.
And,
that would be my
Ray, it's a great point you're bringing up, because AI is going to be, as a great question and a great observation, it's going to be a disruptor in every industry. It's going to be a disruptor in our industry. And that goes back to the mindset part that I started with this talk in the very beginning. Look, that's going to be another rug, if you will. The sky is falling, apocalyptic moment that's going to happen. You guys all that here are weathering this are going to be more prepared when that happens. You're going to be battle hardened for the next one that comes. So that's a great point, Ray. We will have a workaround. And the great thing about Grow Global here is we're going to attack real time things that are happening real time in the industry, because the people that speak on here are selling houses, listing houses, that we have investors, we have people in the tax field, we have all kinds of different backgrounds. And so it's a great point, Ray. I like it that you have that. And on our website, there's a place to suggest topics. And if you'd like to be a speaker on the topic or a panelist or something like that, you can actually get on there and suggest it, because we do take suggestions for things on there. So it's the ygrowglobal1.com. You'll see it in the chat box to be able to get there and suggest. So great stuff. Rob, you had something to add? Rob Campbell?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, beautiful. Another question? Anybody questions? We're down to 68. We had a great group today, 160 leaders. I want to say congratulations to all of you. Look, if you're on here, you're a leader. You are the leader that you've been looking for and that we've been looking for. Let's calm the troops. Let's let everybody know that the sky is not falling, and relax and get to a point where we just get back to helping buyers and sellers. And here's what I've learned in my decades of doing this. If I don't worry about my money and my compensation, guess what happens? The money comes to me. It comes to me because I'm coming at this from a place of service, helping people. And here's the thing. My mentor taught me this. If I help enough people get what they want, I never want for anything, ever. And that's what I think all of you are on here to do. That's why I want you to know it's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. We're going to continue to help people. People are still going to buy and sell houses no matter what, and they're going to need a real estate agent. Could they do it themselves? Of course. Of course they could. We're not going to be so high and mighty that you could never do this yourself. There's some people who'll be able to do this themselves and not pay a realtor. But the truth of it is the majority of them cannot without screwing it up. It's just like if you had to change a transmission in your car, you could save money by changing that transmission yourself. You could go buy all the parts, buy all the tools, borrow somebody's engine lift, buy a hydraulic jack for the car, right? Put it all up in the air and do it, and save a bunch of money. But what if you did it wrong? Plus, how long would it take you to get that thing changed? You could do it, and there's some people who could do it and do it right, but most people can't. And the same thing's going to happen with real estate. So I want to thank all of you for jumping on. I want you to know, all of us here who've been doing this a long time, we love all you guys. Man, we want you to know it's going to be okay. If you're feeling nervous, if you're feeling anxious, reach out to one of us. We'll give you a big virtual hug over the phone and let you know it's going to be all right. It is. I promise you. Hang in there. Don't give up. This business can give you the life of your dreams. It has done that for me and my wife and lots of people that I know. Is it perfect? Hell no. Do things suck at times? Yep. But there are things that suck a lot worse, right? Digging a ditch in the foxhole in the military, roofing roofs in the middle of July, baling hay. Those things suck a lot worse than this, and you're going to be okay, guys. So I want to thank everybody for jumping on today. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for your questions. Reach out if you're feeling uneasy. Don't let it happen. Don't let it take over. The stinking thinking get in there. You are not a victim. We're here to help you. We'll see you next Monday at noon. And we have something Wednesday, Wealth Wednesday. Somebody tell me what's going on Wealth Wednesday. I forgot. I have an old brain. I didn't write it down. Who knows what we're doing Wealth Wednesday?
Don't worry about it. We'll just have everybody come on Monday.
On Monday.
Okay. Monday, noon, Eastern Standard Time. It's the same link every time. And hey, guys, bring a friend. Bring a friend. If you got something out of this, I guarantee you know somebody who's scared, nervous, that can use this information. Bring them on. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thanks to all the panelists. You guys were great. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.